Hello, everyone. Welcome to the series part 3 of this entire series of how to write for Premier Journal. So, we have covered so far what are the Premier Journals, why the majorly manuscripts fail, and now we are covering the expectations of the Premier Journals following the anatomy of the article. So far, we have covered how a well written title can be framed. So, that was our last video. Today, we are going to cover how to write a clear and concise abstract. So, we'll be following the entire, covering all the 10 sections. But today, we are going to focus on clear and concise abstract framing. But before we start, let's understand this. And we, as a researcher, know that before floating our research articles, uh, for the journals, they require everything in different sections. So if you are floating, they have specific interfaces wherein we have to include the abstract, copy and paste the abstract. Sometimes they have the different sections. Let's say, for example, we have to put in purpose in different column, followed by the methodology in different column. So every journal, every publisher follow it separately in their own way, like Emerald, like Springer, like Elsewhere, or Taylor and Francis, or Wiley. So they all have different ways and user interfaces of submitting the research article. However, in conferences and webinars as well, sometimes it is asked from us that please submit your abstract first. If our abstract will be shortlisted, only then they will ask for the detailed manuscripts. So, can we see in such places what importance an abstract holds? This is the main and the very critical first point of evaluation for any editor, any reviewer, or any reader. So, first we have covered the title, that what kind of role the title plays. Then, the moment title convinces a reader to read your article, second comes the abstract. The person immediately goes and scroll down to your abstract. So it serves as a pitch that determines whether the article will be full read by the person, or it will be ignored, right? So the topic can attract the person or hook the person towards your article, but the second role is played by the abstract of article. So it actually communicates the essence of the study with a strict word limit. We all know, and even the journals have the word limits, which varies from 150 to sometimes 250. uh, Specifically an Elsewhere and Wiley sometimes, or Taylor and Francis even, it is strictly word limited, and let's note that it should be between the range of 150 to 250. um, for Emerald, the sections are divided. We are going to see that when we will see the examples today in this video. So, what exactly is also the contribution of the abstract is it highlights the novelty and contributions, that what exactly we are doing. And abstract also decides whether the researcher will further download your paper or buy your paper or refer to your paper or not. Okay, so let's note that it shapes the initial editorial decisions whether the paper will go ahead further or it will be rejected at that point, sometimes even at the desk rejection. So let's be very mindful that how important is our research abstract before diving down deep into how, as a researcher, we can frame abstract so that we can actually frame, or we can actually structure a good abstract. Let's go ahead. So let's first point which we have to note is that it serves as a pitch. It should be very concise, persuasive, and very communicative in terms of summary. Sometimes we see the some abstract which are actually not following any structure. But let's note that the abstract have a strict structure. Okay, so and even we should as a researcher eventually develop that habit of stating the, let's say, what, hows, and what we have found out in the specific number of words, right? So we should develop that art. But first thing, it is a pitch to our article. It sells the study to the readers, encouraging downloads and citations that we have just discussed, deciding on whether the person is going to read your paper full or not going to go ahead further. The next is, it is written with a strict word limit. Typically, it lies between 150 words in premier journals. So let's try to squeeze our thoughts in this word limit. It should be sharp, very, very clear, and brief and precise. Nobody is intended to read, because let's note that in brief the person is going to read in the article, right? So we have to make it in such a wonderful way that the person actually knows about, and sometimes it should not also overhype your article, right? So we have to balance. It should not happen that we are highlighting and elaborating so much that this paper has done so and so things, and we have covered so and so things, and when the person is moving ahead with your article, it is actually not doing the justice, right? So it should be on and to the point, very, very sharp, what the paper is doing, what methodology the paper is following, what are the findings that a paper has got, and what is the originality and the value that the paper is contributing. So we should be very, very crisp and clear in this. It conveys the essence, the core message of the article. It is structured to ensure the logical flow, right? So what I am intending to do, what is the purpose of my research? So it should be smooth and progression of the ideas. It should not happen that my purpose and my methodology is not talking to each other, right? So I should be very, very clear that my purpose, my methodology, my findings, my originality and value should be connected and talking to each other. So what are the key elements? What are the focus points? The first is why we have done this research. Because I remember recently one of my abstract was there, and just to discuss this experience with you, I started with mentioning what I have done, followed by the methodology, that what methodology I have adopted, followed by the rest of the sections. Now, when the paper went to the reviewer, the comment came to me that in first two lines I have to mention why I have done it. What is the relevance? So remember, I did a mistake. I started with what I have done, but I have the reviewer immediately question me that you have not mentioned that why you have done this. So now in 2 3 lines I have to set the background, like what is happening in this space right now, where the gap is lying, and that's why this is the thing which is actually forcing me or prompting me as a researcher, or actually fascinating me as a researcher to do this particular, or to fill this particular gap, to address this particular problem, right? So in 2 3 lines, just provide the gap, the problem, the thing which has motivated you as a researcher, or us as a researcher. So the first is why. Then what? So you might be seeing in emerald kind of journals, they start with purpose, right? So what is the purpose, goal, objective of your study? What study aims to examine or explain? So we have to state that. How we are planning to do that? So if we will see the abstract and read the abstract, immediately after stating why the researcher has done and what they are doing, they will mention what approach methodology they are adopting, whether it's an SLR. If it is an SLR, what kind of approach they have adopted, whether it's Prisma, whether it's SPAR, whether it's TCMADO, or it's a survey, what kind of experiment they have done, whether it's in meta analysis. So they will actually clearly mention What kind of ways, methodology, research design in very, very brief. Let's note this. What kind of discovery? What is the originality of our article? What kind of value our article is delivering? So, what discovery means? We have to share the findings followed by the value. That is the contribution of our article. What are the theoretical contributions? What are the practical? And how it is going to impact the policy makers, the policy or the thought leaders? What role my article plays there? So these are the very, very critical points. As a researcher, let's make a checklist whenever we are making or framing an article. Let's make a checklist that we check all these points. I have also attached a reference paper at the bottom because the research paper belongs to the author. So, just to cite, if you want to further read in detail about it, please do refer the article. Now, so in short, what we are doing, first thing is why we have done it, right? So, can we see that we just have focused what as a researcher has prompted us, followed by okay, so this thing has prompted us. So, what exactly we are planning to do, right? What exactly we are planning? What is the goal and the purpose of our study? And remember, everything we have to squeeze in maximum 2 to 3 lines. More than that, otherwise, we will exceed the word limit of around 150 to 200 words. But please note and read the author guidelines in every journal very, very specifically, because the journals are very strict about it. And on few interfaces like I feel Taylor and Francis or Wiley, you will not be able to enter the abstract who are actually having more than a specific word limit which they have indicated, or the limit which they have set. So we will not be able to enter the abstract more than that. So from the starting, let's keep this thing in mind so that we remain concise and precise. Now, how are we planning to do that? Okay, what is the methodology, ways we as a researcher are going to adopt? Then, what are the findings? Because remember, in the abstract, uh, we have already find out and finished the research. So we have to mention what are the key takeaways, what are the findings of our research, and so what, how it is going to create an impact, what kind of community, society problem, global problem it is addressing, and how it is going to help the policymakers, what are the important stakeholders, and how it is going to help them. So let's follow this structure of why, what, how, findings, followed by so what. What is so new about your research? What's novel about it, and how it is going to create the impact? So let's structure our research in this way. Let's have a look at some articles. The first one is from Emerald. So Emerald has a specific structure to follow. So whenever you are intending or we are intending to submit an article to Emerald, let's note that we have to submit our uh, abstract in this structure: purpose, design, findings, originality, followed by keyword, and what kind of paper it is. Okay, so if we will follow, so just follow this structure which we are discussing, and if we follow this structure, whether it's Emerald or any other journal, we just have to remove these headings, right? So this is the way. Can we see the uh, the researcher is clearly indicating what is the purpose, followed by how they have done it, followed by what they have found out, what is the value of the researchers research, what it is contributing, followed by the keywords. Remember, we want our article to reach the maximum audience, right? Or the right people who are actually uh, working in the specific area should reach our paper. We don't want that our paper is in spite existing in the space, our paper is not noticed by the relevant people, whether it's the policy people, policy making people, or the researchers, or the academics, or the practitioners out there. We want them that they should reach our paper. How they will reach? If we will write the right keywords, right? Otherwise, they might not be able to reach our article. Let's have a look at the another article, again from Emerald. So again, the same structure. So we have already understood it. Uh, Again from Emerald, let's have a look at some another from elsewhere. So so the first thing is, can we see here the background established? What is happening? The growing demand of qualified professional, so and so things. Then, however, despite this thing, the gap is existing. Okay, can we see first the researcher has established the background, then the researcher is saying despite this thing, the gap is existing, and thus still it is not clear which teaching methods are most suitable. Can we see how beautifully the researcher has done? First setting the background, then despite having all these things, it is still not clear. Then this study, what this study is doing, how they are doing it. So they are doing a systematic literature review. Okay, and then in systematic they have mentioned what they have found out, followed by what kind of theoretical and practical implications the study is going to give. What are the important people? Educators, policy makers, so that they can create the curriculum aligned with the market dynamics, promoting the interdisciplinary education with twins. Can we just saw that how they have followed the same approach which we are discussing? Let's have a look at some more from Taylor and Francis. So again, the same approach. They have started with this study. So what is the purpose of the study? What the study is doing? While the previous research, so again highlighting the gap, what previous research has already done and what they haven't. So the novel challenge in front of the researchers is this. Okay. Then they have mentioned how they are planning to do. They are going ahead with inductive qualitative analysis. They have mentioned the context as well. And in the end, they are stating that it is going to help the entrepreneurs to mobilize the resources and reshape institutional frameworks. Can we just see the same structure, the same approach? Please note, in sometimes they might not be highlighting majorly on findings, because sometimes the findings are in such a way that it is a representative case in semiconductor industry, right? So we have to read further this paper, but in brief they have highlighted what they have done, like how, especially in terms of findings. So in findings they are connecting with the value and the originality of the article, that how it is going to impact. So it is going to help the entrepreneurs to mobilize resources and reshape institutional frameworks in Japan. Let's have a look at one more, that is, I feel it is from Springer. So again, what this study is doing, what is the primary objective, what methodology the study is applying, followed by what are the findings, followed by there should be a finding. So they must have, they are highlighting the findings, contrasting some previous works, and then what and how it is going to create the impact. Can we see the same pattern? So team, let's start working and framing the abstract constructively. Let's follow the approach which we have just discussed, and I'm sure it is going to help you out. And let's note that we can set the background, we can write this in the beginning. Okay, so we may write the abstract or the first three sections in the beginning, but the findings usually, or all the time, we write when we finish the research. Okay, so you may skip, because I have seen that the researchers first start writing the abstract. You may write it in to just give your mind a direction, So you may do that. Definitely you can write that. But the clear and entire abstract we'll be able to write in the end. Additionally, following the approach, the structured framework, the structured approach which we are talking about. Just now we have covered Emerald, Elsevier, Taylor and Francis, Wiley, and Springer, what kind of articles they are, and can we see how concise they are? Because remember, if you have written a very, very long abstract, and in the end, if we will be asked that please reduce the number of limits, it's not aligning, then it becomes very, very difficult. So let's make this thing very, very crisp and avoid using jargons in the abstract. It should be very, very easy to understand. Can we see they are using this word or this short form or acronym here, and immediately they are just, in the very first use, they are clearly mentioning what is the full form, right? So let's note all these points, everyone, and I hope it is of some help to all of us. If you have any approach, any different approach of doing it, please do share in the comments. If you have any feedback, any suggestions, feel free to share in the comment box. Additionally, if your article gets published or gets accepted, and if this entire video is of some help to you, please do at least like and subscribe the channel so that we also gets motivated. Thank you so much, researchers, and all the very best for your upcoming